Late night happy hours back on a Tuesday. Big night. Unexpected results in some ways with some of the big stories around sports. So we'll get to those with the Clippers in a romp. The Golden Knights. Uh-oh. We got some Golden Knights talk to get to as well. Adam Candee is in. Our buddy in SoCal, Alex Crawford, is in. You guys are meeting each other for the first time, so this should be interesting.
Yeah.
I know Alex has a whole set of stories he wants to get to. First of all, Alex, I will ask you, how's your head after a Vegas trip? I don't know if you got crazy all weekend, but we got to hang a little bit. So what's up, buddy?
I was actually going to ask you, I was in Vegas this weekend. We did the late night happy hour live from the Westgate Sportsbook, which was funny, which I in my head had, does he remember Friday? I had in my head that we would have this dope custom booth where people would be coming by and dapping us up. And, but actually on Friday, the Westgate closed at 10. So it was me out on a laptop by myself drinking, and the bar was closed. I had a Bud Light Strawberita. And I got really drunk. I was just going to ask you, Steve. I mean, I remember Friday, but I just, was I too drunk on the podcast? Did I cross any lines?
That's for the listeners, because we have all these P1s who watch many nights, and we totally appreciate everyone watching so much. But was he too drunk? That's a question to be answered. Was he too drunk later in the night? I can answer that question. Just to loop you in, Candee, we had planned on going down and doing our first live late night happy hour on the road. Nothing's open in Vegas. And we'd planned on going to the Westgate and Superbook USA. And Adam Hill and I, not that we got antsy, but Adam had worked a long day, had been out at the stadium all day, and I was a little bit tired. So we both went home. I told Adam, I'm not going to go down there. Then I took a little nap. I got up and I'm like, of course I'm going to go down there. So I go down there and I'm looking around for Alex. Adam's like, oh crap. I didn't know we were going to be down there. So anyway, we get down there, and it is to see what Vegas is right now is insane. It's depressing, but I mean, part of it's joyful because it's freaking open. But Alex is right. There was no one.
There's no one
on a Friday, right before the football season. No one there. But the biggest thing was, as Alex mentioned, no bars were open.
No,
it was nuts. Candee, have you been out and about at all?
No. Listen, dude. You're talking to someone who still is doing all his grocery shopping online. I haven't been out at all. And it actually doesn't make me all that upset to hear that the casino is a little bit empty on a Friday night, and then maybe people are taking this seriously.
Yeah, no, I would say actually I walked away from Vegas being okay, everyone in the casinos was wearing masks. The one guy I saw without a mask, police were actually dealing with him because he was doing the whole, I don't have to wear a mask, it's my right as an American. And
you saw a case of that?
I saw a case of that. I should have filmed it, but then it almost just made me so sad. I almost was I got to pull my cell phone out for this. It was in the MGM Grand lobby, getting in the line for the elevator. And then I just got kind of sad, and then the cops came, and I don't know if they arrested him or not, but they definitely took him off to the side and I don't know, tried to mask him. I don't know, but yeah, it gave me some hope to see that things were the sports book was empty, dude. I had to go. The bar was closed. The next door bar was closed. The first bar in the casino was closed. So I just had to go to the gift shop and pick up some Bud Lights and a Strawberita.
You know what, man? Listen, drunk on Strawberita on a Friday night in Vegas, there were a lot worse outcomes that could have happened to you.
True. Very true. I didn't lose any money, so.
Right.
Brady says you didn't cross the line at all. Then he follows up. Do you remember that you professed his love to Brady at the end of the Friday stream?
I don't remember that. I don't believe that. I don't even know if that's true.
I think it is true. You were also very proud of the Strawberita.
It's delicious. It was a treat.
In Cofield fashion, when we wrapped up, I cleaned everything up. We were off the air, and there was a little bit of a little swig left of the Strawberita, and I'm a value guy. And I was like, dude, you got to drink this. And you're like, no, I can't do it, man. And yeah, it hit you. I think it hit you at the end of the stream, and then it definitely hit you when we were trying to find food. And that's the other thing. Locally, trying to find food at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, what a freaking challenge. Trying to find a bar open at that time is a challenge.
Yeah, I thought this was Vegas, dude.
Everything's closed down.
It's crazy. I mean, it makes sense.
Our governor is he's freaking destroyed the bar industry, and he's got his reasons, but only the bars that have figured out a way to kind of get around it. We actually, So we started looking for food, and we settled upon this Japanese tapas place that's on Spring Mountain. But because it's so small and they have the distance, they can only let in half the people. So that was like an hour wait. So I'm like, all right, we'll drive up the road. Let's go find a bar. Actually, we tried to find a Korean place first. That place had like 30 people outside. I'm like, that ain't going to happen.
K barbecue.
Yeah. And then we found, of all places, we hit Sago's. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's on Decatur and Spring Mountain. It used to be Kilroy's. I think it used to be Kilroy's, whatever it was. And they're open, but they've got this whole, it is what we're trying to do. I understand the goal, but what we're trying to do and what we're making bars do is it's so fucking silly. We walk into Sago's and they've got plexiglass all around the bar. They've got the machines closed. Then they set up, it's kind of cool. They got these surfboard tables that they put like 6 inches in front of the bar. You can sit at that and have beers, and then they've got machines. They always had machines on the back wall. That's how that place is set up. So at that point, I'm just like, you know what? If we can get a beer, I'm just overjoyed. And Alex and I had a good conversation about radio, but I could see as it was going along, he got a what did we get you? I can't remember the beer, but
I can't either, dude.
You were starting to fade, and let me tell you, Candee, like I've had a lot of meals across from drunken people. Alex with finger food, that was fun.
Oh God, dude. See, this is what I was worried about, bro. This is what I was worried about.
It wasn't anything crazy. But your choice of oysters on back-to-back orders, I was like, oh shit.
You're like, stop eating so many oysters.
Whoa. I was along for the ride on everything here until you told me that the finger food was oysters. I mean, nothing against oysters. They're delicious, but oysters and strawberryto is not really the combination I had in mind here.
Yeah. I mean, it went all right. This is like probably everyone from out of town ever, but every time I go to Vegas, I just get way too drunk the first night. That's everyone, right? Like that's everyone's story, but truly, I even on this trip was like, hey, I'm going to keep it, mellow. We're hanging out with Cofield. I've never met him in person. I'd like to make a good impression. Next thing you know, strawberryto and oysters, and then no memories. So,
Brady, that's a reasonable question, and I think Alex should answer it.
I have an iron stomach, famous last words, but the strawberryto and oysters, that was fine. I don't recommend it, but I love the Japanese food that we had. That was really good. Thank you, Steve.
I dropped you off at the MGM. And
I made it in.
And do you remember going into the MGM?
No.
Okay, I was just a little worried because it was actually pretty dead. But everyone who lives in Vegas, you've been to the MGM and
it's so big.
The lobby there and the driveway up. I forgot how big it is. And when you've got someone who's drunk and he had like an 80-pound backpack, I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm going to get this dude killed as he's trying to walk across 7 lanes at the MGM. So I was like, I got out and I put the hand up. I'm like, everyone slow down. Let's let Alex get in there.
Dude,
the other great thing about the meal was I can't even describe. You started kind of spinning. The eyes started spinning and we were done. And I had gotten a corn on the cob, right? I didn't realize the order was like one corn on the cob.
I remember that. Do you
remember? I ate the corn on the cob and you were scanning the table for more food. And like I annihilated this corn on the cob. It had nothing. And Alex is just like looking around. He picks up the corn on the cob. Dude, there's nothing left. And he just starts chewing on it. I'm like, bro.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, man.
He was hungry. We had more time. We wouldn't eat anymore. So,
yeah. My bad.
Very rarely will we get a server in Vegas going, is he driving? But we actually did have the little Asian lady at the Japanese place was like, is he driving? I'm like, all right, relax. He's not driving.
Now, Steve, did that happen right when he picked up your corn on the cob and started gnawing on it? Because that would seem like just the moment for that.
I don't know, man. He was he was picking out sake, or it was fun. It was a good time.
Man.
But a very, very diminished Vegas. It's a very diminished Vegas. Actually, that is a good first impression. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, so for some reason I didn't eat dinner. I was like, oh, we'll eat after the show. I'll be fine. But I got to the sports book early, had a margarita, got a strawberryta, and I had some tequila before, and I think just I hadn't eaten since breakfast, really. And I think that it just all, it's all good. It's Vegas, right? That's what we thank you guys for the experience.
By the way, in the chat room, people are going out and getting food after midnight, going to restaurants. Where do you go? because I've been out around the strip, and it's crazy. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it. I know, Candee, you've totally adjusted, and now you never go out. I have to go out every once in a while.
You make it sound like I had some sort of social life before this. Like, this was not a hard adjustment. This was more just me saying to myself, okay, well, that maybe once a month that I was going out to actually do damage. Like, I'm okay.
That's crazy right now. Yeah, and we always talk about food on this, and everyone's like, I'm hungry now. But yeah, around the strip, I've only found a couple places. I'll tell you what, the Giant Plaza in Chinatown that has Fuck Him Long, and I think Lee's Sandwiches was closed, but there were a couple places. But
Lee's is great. We've got Lee's down here in SoCal. Yeah, I love Lee's.
Well, at this point, Bug Dove, I don't think we can be picky. What's open that's good? I have no idea. But you realize how, like, for the businesses, it's freaking devastating. But it's. I know we're months into it. It's so weird that Vegas is all freaking closed late night.
I mean, as an outsider going there and seeing the empty sports book, the last time I was at the Westgate was last year, the first weekend of NFL games, and it was packed. I couldn't get a seat. It was insane. And then being there and it's empty, it's like, whoa, okay. But I guess on the flip side here, like locally, I'm sure this exists in Vegas and everywhere else, but locally, I know of at least a couple bars here in Orange County that are just in straight violation of COVID regulations, and they're fully open. They just have we have big ass windows, so we're open air, and no one's wearing masks inside. And I see people that I know on their Instagram story, they're there, and it's shoulder to shoulder, and no one's masked. And I'm like, I guess that's good for the business, but that also freaks me out. So I don't know what side I'm on.
One detail that we got into on the late night happy hour was that Adam Hill had a date. It wasn't a date, but he wouldn't say where he was going. He was meeting people. And then we tried to invite ourselves, and he wouldn't let us go with him. So that was weird. It was not a date. That's all I can say. It's not a date, and it may have been along the lines of what Alex just said. May have been a spot that Adam Hill knows about, but no one else is supposed to know about. So
what is that all about? Share the wealth. Like, the only reasons that you would do that are date, job interview, or drug deal, and I'm not sure which one this qualifies for.
Everyone's doing what they got to do,
I realize that. I'm just saying you're giving the man a wide berth here to just say, like, oh yeah, you can't come along.
He told me why. I can't.
Oh, okay. So the truth comes out.
I was bummed. I wanted to meet Adam. I was excited. I actually was looking forward to that. That was a top 3 thing I was looking forward to in Vegas, and that one didn't happen. So, Don't Wish Steve Meeting You was another top 3. So.
Oh yeah, great. I appreciate that.
Was the Strawberryta the third?
No, but I will say, and I talked about this. I have a soft spot for those Blankaritas, the Bud Light Strawberryta Lime, yeah. and I probably have one every 6 months tops. And when I saw that there in the case at the Westgate snack bar or whatever gift shop, I treated myself. So that's a Vegas treat that you can get anywhere, but I kept it in Vegas.
But it's your Vegas treat. It's
my Vegas treat.
Counts. Yeah.
D. Walker might be right. It seemed Adam Hill was way too excited about the Jerry Falwell Jr. news.
Oh, did you guys talk about that?
Oh boy, did we talk about it! And then we watched the video last night. We talked about it today on terrestrial, which was probably not the greatest move. We talked about his gym video that came out.
Oh
where
yeah,
Jerry Falwell is on a bench doing pelvic thrust with 2 women on the bar. And we're just trying to put this whole thing together. The crazy life of one Jerry Falwell Jr. The crazy life of the son of a televangelist. After 35 or 40 years of chastising us and pointing their fingers at us, and this guy's basically banging everything that walks, legal and illegal. We backed off on the video because we're like, whoa, that one chick does not look definitely 21 or 19 or 20, so not good. What do you think about the cuckolding and that whole story?
Are you talking to me or Candee? Candee, you go first on the cuckold.
No, I mean, I had to gather my thoughts for a second there because I think the easy reaction is just to be like, yeah, well, okay, not the first time we've seen this kind of story. But then you read some of the details and you think to yourself, no, this has a chance to really blow up into something that's a little bit on the different side. Like the whole idea of, I was in the relationship with this person. I watched while he did these things with my wife. and you're kind of sitting there like an improv person, like, and
then
tell me the rest. Like, what?
Was that a cuckold video, Cofield?
Punching up the workout in a second.
Oh, okay.
Everyone didn't get to see it enough last night. It's fun stuff.
I mean, I'm not into cuckolding, but I'm not going to kink shame anybody here on the late night happy hour. That being said,
here we go.
It's always these people, right? Whether it's the televangelists or the those that are chastising others, or those that are typically on the far side of the spectrum on things. It's typically those people that are the ones doing the weird shit.
That young lady on the right is young. Now, which course at Liberty is that?
Yeah, right. Seriously.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they're young. Creepy. A lot of creepy.
Everything's a scam, man. Like Liberty University, the whole thing, all the money that people pay, and God knows what the Falwells are doing behind the scenes. Not that cuckolding is wrong, but they've probably got a stance that it is, and they've probably shamed people for it and for a variety of other kinks. And how much money are they making off the unassuming? Or everything's a scam, bro. Everyone's scamming.
Is this right? Did Ponder go to Liberty?
Not something I keep.
I don't know.
In the recesses of my brain, but I'm sure we can verify that while we're going here.
Not a good time to be tied to that school.
No, dude.
Although
Aren't they?
The guilt by association is ridiculous. It's obviously the creeps running the place, not the students.
Yeah, not the students, but and not the students are to blame for this either. But aren't they one of the first universities that reopened? And they said, God's going to handle. We got God's got COVID on lock. We're good here, and then they had to shut down within a week or two.
They were one of the first to reopen and one of the first to reclose.
Yes, yeah.
Grand opening, grand closing. Yeah.
Notre Dame too. Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Reopen, reclose.
We talked about we talked about this on the press box this morning with Alabama and the fact that 560 COVID cases, nearly a capacity for their quarantine dorm, like, and they're not any different from North Carolina, from Notre Dame. Like, the idea that we're going to ask 18 to 21-year-olds to show up to college and live in a monastery is insane.
It's not going to work.
No, it's not.
What do you got back there, Steve?
Just moving my junk. I wanted to show my pepper. No, that's the other side, actually. Another person noticed that the chili pepper moved, so.
Don't show us the pepper.
Yeah.
Don't show us the pepper on here, Jerry Falwell Jr.
I'm going to brag about my pepper. You don't hear that.
I like how he said he's moving his junk, but you latched onto the pepper.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That's
I
true.
nailed it on both fronts. All right, what do we got on the Clippers game? Fire away, Clippers fan. Clipper defender.
I'll defend them. For the first thing I've got is that when the Clippers play like they did tonight, score a franchise high record, 154 points, they blew out the Mavs. They looked absolutely dominant. When the Clippers play like they play tonight, they will win the NBA title. I don't think there's anybody that can beat them. The problem with the Clippers in the postseason or at times this season is they don't keep that intensity switch flipped. And that's a bit of a Doc Rivers thing because we saw that with the Lob City Clippers too. There's this switch that sometimes gets flipped off and it doesn't get flipped back on. But I think that with the addition of Kawhi Leonard, I don't want to go as far as say player coach, but I think Kawhi Leonard brings this element to the Clippers where it overcomes some of Doc's questionable coaching. I love Doc. I think he's a top 10 NBA coach. But I do think sometimes his teams, the switch gets flipped off and some matchups get screwed up. But I think when the Clippers play like they played tonight, there's no team that can beat them in the NBA.
Here's what I would keep in mind with the Clippers, and this is obviously peak Clippers from what you saw tonight. And look, they were a top 2 team in offensive rating all year long. So what you saw was Montrezl Harrell is starting to become Montrezl Harrell again. When you have full Montrezl Harrell, he's not the 6th man of the year. He's a 6th starter. He's that good. He's an absolute force, and he is something that most other teams don't have. The other question I would say to you, Alex, is when we talk about flipping that switch with the Clippers, how much of that is Patrick Beverley too? Because we've all seen the stats about the record with and without Patrick Beverley, but he is the guy to me that brings the edge for that team. He's the guy that would not let the intensity wane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been saying that since last season with him. They need him even if his stat line is like 9, 5, and 3. Because he's the heart and soul of that team. I also think he could have gone tonight if he needed to. We saw videos of him warming up pretty intensely. I think the Clippers are viewing this as a championship or at least a Western Conference Finals run, and they know that. I think they know they can win this. Tonight was huge, obviously. If they had lost tonight, oh my God, we'd be having a much different conversation. But I think they're making a calculated risk by resting him maybe a little longer than they need to, knowing that they want him 100% healthy when they get into the next 2 to 3 rounds.
And they got a break. I mean, quite obviously, without Kristaps Porzingis in the lineup, it is a very different Dallas team. And if you look across that aisle and you see no Kristaps Porzingis and you see a hobbled Luka, you probably can afford to say, all right, you know what? We should have enough to win this game without Patrick Beverley and be able to advance to the next round.
Well, for sure. And I think that's why the last game on the Sunday with that with that Luka shot, I think why that, for me as a Clippers fan, or other Clippers, I think that's why that was so frustrating, because you're like, okay, this was a chance to lock up this series, go up 3-1, and then close things out in the next game, and then you blew it with Kristaps on the sideline and a hobbled Luka who put up an all-time historic playoff performance. I mean, I love Luka. I love what he's doing. I'm actually a quarter Slovenian, so I relate to him a little bit there on the heritage front. So it's good to see a Slovenian baller out there. But I think the Clips take the next game. I think they flip the switch. You saw Paul George post-game. I don't like the playoff P moniker. I don't love that. I've never loved that. I think Paul George is good. He's not great. I think he's a really good number 2. I think he's when he was the number 1, the Pacers were good. They weren't great. But I think you saw post game, he was talking about his mental health. He said the bubble was getting to him. He was depressed. He was anxious. I think that's real. He had a 3-game slump. We live in a 24/7 news cycle, or even more, like every half of a day, things refresh. And so in his slump, it just, it was like the world was ending. But every player goes through slumps. His was historically bad, but it was 3 games. He played pretty good in game 1. He played really good tonight. He had a 3-game slump, and I think that's fine. Like, I think we overreact to things in sports. I know that we're all in sports media, so it's like we're the ones that are pushing those narratives. But yeah, I think the Clippers found it tonight. I think once they get P-Bev back, I am biased, but I don't see any team, even the Lakers, because they match up well with the Lakers, I don't see any team getting in the way.
Lakers are a better 1-2 punch. I'll take LeBron and AD at their peak over Kawhi and Paul George, and that's more about Paul George versus AD than it is about anything else. But when you look up and down the rest of the roster, if the Clippers are right, if they are getting the performances they get from Lou Will, from Montrezl Harrell, from Pat Bev, then they are by far the more complete team. It's just a matter of getting that every night and, trying to make sure that, like you said, that they have that full-on effort. Because to me, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to coast all the way, all the way through to the later rounds of these playoffs. I think Dallas is showing right now that you're going to have to fight through the Western Conference this year, not just the Lakers.
Yeah, for sure. And we talk, and just talking about the Lakers too, I think that their achievements against Portland are getting a little bit overblown. Portland, the difference between the 8 seed and everyone else was significant. I believe Portland had a losing record on the season. So while Portland came in on a tear, super hot, Dame time, they had all this hype. Statistically, they were an average to below average team on the season. They took game 1. Everyone's like, oh my God, we got a series. Guess what? They're gassed. One of their starters, one of their starting big men out for the series, out for the season. You're seeing guys like Hassan Whiteside and Mario Hezonja getting major minutes. I think the Lakers' forthcoming win in this series is maybe getting a little overhyped. I can't wait to see how they look in the next round, where they get a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, it's a terrible matchup for Portland. Honestly, I just don't see defensively how you're going to be able to get by with the lineup they have going against the dynamic LeBron and AD being able to switch positions and play all over the court. So yeah, my question to you is, if it comes down to a 2-person game, if it comes down to Kawhi and Paul George versus LeBron and AD, if those are the players who show up, do you think that the Clippers can beat the Lakers?
Well, the thing about that though, Candee, is that it's I mean, there's going to be other players. Like the depth is going to be, I mean, they're not playing, this is an NBA Jam. They're not playing 2-on-2 because I do
better if it were.
I do think I take AD over PG. Kawhi and LeBron, I think, are right there, neck and neck. I think you can make a case for either. I mean, I know the Clippers fan thinks Kawhi is better than LeBron. He might be right now. LeBron is insanely good. He's one of the all-time greats. He just led the NBA in passing. He does things no one else can do. But I still think I might take Kawhi over him. But I do take AD over PG. I actually have always thought PG was a little bit overhyped, even when the Clippers got him and traded like 5 first-round picks and their entire future to get him. And then he goes in this 3-game slump, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? But it's guys like, you know, I know we kind of talked about this last week, Cofield, but, you know, it's guys like Nick Wright and these embrace debate hot take artists. And Nick Wright has taken this stand against PG and the Clippers, and they beat this drum and make it sound like Paul George sucks. He doesn't suck. He's very good. If it turned into a 2-on-2, which it won't, they're not playing at the playground. Yeah, I'd take LeBron and AD, but the Clippers' depth, the Lakers have no depth. Don't sell me on Danny Green. Don't sell me on Rondo coming back. This isn't 2014.
Could you guys play in the bubble? Would you have problems? Can you think of, be honest, Paul George is getting depressed. There's been other players. Well, in the NHL, Tuukka Rask was like, I'm out of here. I don't like the intensity. I miss my family. Could you do it?
I could. I think I could. I don't know why I couldn't. I mean, I don't have a family. So, I mean, like I have like my parents and stuff, but I don't have a girlfriend or a wife. I don't have a dog. I think.
By the way, could you do it right now, though? Because again, I don't know if you remember Friday's show, but you talked for about 15 minutes about your ex and that you're taking a hiatus.
I talked about that, bro?
Oh, yeah.
God damn, bro. Oh, my goodness.
Little by little, it's all leaking back.
I was like worried about that, actually. I remember the next day I was like, gosh, I hope I didn't talk about my ex. And then I was like, I don't think I did. And fast forward.
We're taking a hiatus until so-and-so. And
yeah, September 19th.
The bro-meter exploded. You had like 700 bros. Yeah, I don't think you could do it. I think I could because I actually think it would create, as I talk about trying to take a, you know, if we want to dive into my relationship again, as I talk about trying to take a hiatus from my ex, I think that having a true bubble around it would be good. I do great with boundaries. I do great with, I think inside the boundaries, creativity can thrive. So put me in the bubble right now. I'll go. This is not the QAnon chick, right? That you're on hiatus until September.
No QAnon chicks anymore. I have cut them off.
For now.
Sound choice.
September 19th is a long ways off, my friend.
Put me in the bubble.
QAnon may have to be it.
QAnon may come. No, but I told you the problem with QAnon chicks. There's 2. They both live in the Pacific Northwest, so I'd have to go leave my own bubble to go see them. So
have they allowed you on their secret forest compounds?
Not yet. I'm trying to get up there.
Okay, just checking. Yeah, I don't think I could do the bubble, Cofield. I'm pretty sure of it actually. And it's not like I have it's not like I'm living in some sort of palatial estate here. Like, you know, I have a decent life here, but I just think the pressure to perform at the level that these guys are being asked to perform day in and day out, while being completely isolated from everything that is important to them, from everything that is routine to them. I don't know that I would perform at my peak the way that these guys are being asked to do. I think it's remarkable when we look at what guys have been able to do, especially when you look at the NHL and you look at the teams that have been playing for a really long time. You look at teams that have been doing this for upward of a month now. I think it's really, really easy to say, well, they're being paid millions. Yes, they are. The paycheck can't be spent inside the bubble, and it doesn't do anything for you inside the bubble. So I think I would struggle mightily.
I think that Candee, to that point of, oh, these guys are getting paid millions, I do hate that because they're still people. They're still like real human beings. And I really actually enjoyed Paul George said a lot of silly things, dumb things. And I remember last year when the Blazers knocked him out of the postseason, he called Damian Lillard's series ending shot a bad shot. he's been roasted for a lot of things, but I did enjoy Paul George opening up a little bit post-game, saying, I've dealt with some depression. I've dealt with some anxiety. I talked to a psychiatrist. Even though these guys are getting paid millions, they still have feelings. It's the same. I have a friend. I have a conservative friend. I use the term friend loosely, but he said that athletes shouldn't speak out on political issues because they don't live in the real world. Like, that's not true. Like, he said LeBron doesn't deal with racism because he's LeBron, so he shouldn't speak out on it. And I just think putting athletes on this, not only this pedestal, but this like societal bubble is BS. They deal with stuff. I get what you're saying. I think I could go in the bubble, but I see why you say you couldn't.
4 words for your friend who says that LeBron doesn't face racism: shut up and dribble.
Exactly. Also, with the to your point too, people are talking about, does this season or this postseason have an asterisk? Whatever team wins, I think it has an asterisk saying it was harder. Like, I think it is harder. It's insane what they're going through.
I agree completely. That you want to say it's a different season? Yeah, it's a different season. There's only one postseason that's going to get an asterisk. There's only one season period that's going to get an asterisk, and it's Major League Baseball, because Major League Baseball has been out here changing the rules of the game, 7-inning double headers and runners on second and DHs in both leagues. I mean, that's a league that gets an asterisk because you really have made a completely different game in a bad way. For the NBA, to your point, and NHL for the same point, you're asking them to do something that is a huge, huge effort. And being away from your family right now is a hell of a lot different than being away from your family at any other time. Think about the stress that everybody is under right now. Just about going to the store, hanging out with friends, the kids not going to school and being trapped at home. Like, if you're someone who has any value on the people who are at home, which a lot of these athletes do, then this is really, really hard.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think too, playing in these somewhat empty arenas with weird virtual sounds and piped in crowd noise. I watched a clip of a game and they had taken the announcers out, so they just had the arena sounds. And it was weird. It was eerie. I mean, they still was crowd noise, but you looked around and it was like, there's no energy. There's no buzz. There's no palpable feeling of a big game. And there's no home crowd. Talk about this Blazers-Lakers series. Talk about a team that really could have benefited from some home cooking. The Blazers and the Moda Center, formerly the Rose Garden, and the buzz that they generate there. There's so many weird things at play. No wonder Paul George is not the only guy dealing with some mental health issues in the bubble.
Guys, I thought of this tonight more than any other night with the lack of fans. I mean, the piped in crowd noise. Yeah, when I'm just like in the kitchen doing something and the game's on, then the piped in crowd noise actually just fades into the background, right? I don't notice it. But what I noticed tonight was with Lucas Giolito's no-hitter for the Chicago White Sox, because that's one of those moments where when you've watched enough sports and you feel the crowd rising as it gets closer and closer. And Lucas Giolito dialed up the focus to strike out 13 guys in a no-hitter with nobody in that stadium. I thought that was a hell of an accomplishment, but it was also a moment that really drove home to me the fact that you can pipe in as much crowd noise and stick as many cardboard cutouts in there as you want. There are some moments that just aren't the same.
Do you think that actually helped them in some ways? Can a home crowd F you up when it comes to, because the buzz before, you're really making the run down the stretch? Could it have actually saved him mentally?
I don't think so. I think that, Benetti and Stone spent a long time tonight talking about how much work Giolito's done on his mental game. And I don't think that the crowd would have had a whole lot to do with him losing that if he had lost it. I think it would have had much more to do with the fact that the Pirates did not start anybody with a batting average over 230 tonight.
Wow. I could play in a bubble. I would have no issue. So, but I will never sit here and discount someone or discount someone's concerns or struggles mentally, because everyone's got a different situation. Like Alex said, from a family standpoint, it's not a big deal for him. For me, it would not be a big deal, but I'm not going to sit here and say someone else is a pussy because they're struggling with it. So, hey, everyone has a different existence. A couple of props in the game, and I don't know if Adam Hill was actually giving us real plays on this or he was just trying to set me up and he knew where I was going, but the over-under on points on Paul George for the Clippers game was 23. I went over on that. And then, you ready for this one? the Luka points, rebounds, assist. Any guesses? Like how high the number was?
Points, rebound.
Probably 55.
I'll go with. I'll go
50,
with.
I mean, dude, 55. I mean,
I'll go with 43 and a half. 43 and a half.
Look at what the numbers were on him for a triple-double. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, you're right on there. I was just trying to chastise you, move you off the number. It was 53 and a half.
Oh, wow.
Did not even
love you
sniff it. Yeah, did not even sniff it as I mean, he had a solid game, but he finished 34 with the over-under 53 and a half.
Now,
22.8 rebounds, 4 assists.
Now, how close would he have gotten if Markieff Morris hadn't stepped right onto his ankle and tried to take him out of the game? Would it have been much better?
Marcus Morris said that it was not on purpose. Marcus Morris said it was not on purpose.
That's good enough for you, and as a Clippers fan, absolutely. That was a more obvious step than Christian Laettner going onto some dude's chest. Like that was pretty clear.
You know what? Let's build on this. In this game, well, should Montrezl Harrell played in the game after his?
Oh, it's no. I mean, that's not a slur. Yeah, he should have played. Bitch ass white boy is not a slur.
Montrezl Harrell.
I think for a league that has players wearing equality on their jerseys, I think they need to take a higher road when it comes to trash talk that has any sort of racial connotation. I'm not
any kind.
Yes, any kind. Yes, I think this was an opportunity to send a message that we're zero tolerance, and that by letting him play. And again, I'm not offended, and I'm not going to use the word racist because really, when it comes down to it, racism by definition would be someone having power over someone else. So I don't know right now that African Americans have power over Luka Doncic, but I saw Sid Rosenberg, a New York radio personality. He said anyone else nauseated by the double standard today if Montrezl Harrell was white and Luka was black. Well, you know the answer. What would happen? You know the answer. He said it's unacceptable. Sinbad, and we mentioned this on the show because I love that Sinbad is like he's fucking pissed, man. That guy has been on fire on Twitter. Sinbad,
no way.
You got to follow him. He's been great.
Oh yeah, baby.
He's retweeting stuff all the time about racial injustice and inequity. Sinbad reacted to Sid Rosenberg, which, by the way, Sid's around my age and we worked for the same company back in the late 90s. If you could ask Sid Rosenberg in like 98, dude, down the road, you are going to trigger the comedian Sinbad to tell you to go fuck yourself, I'd be like, yeah, that's like in my top 5 freaking goals. Sinbad said, well, yeah, you know the answer. Fuck that bullshit you talking. I'm like, okay. All right, Sinbad. Sinbad has checked in.
I love Sinbad.
Sinbad has entered the chat. This is one of those moments where you really notice the bubble because we probably don't ever hear about this without this being played in an airplane hangar, right? Like, this probably is not a thing otherwise. And Cofield, I think that if you want to talk about what happens with trying to legislate or I guess maybe penalize these things, if you were to take what is said on the average basketball court on any given day and put a microphone on all of it, right, and try to police who said what to whom and what words were used, I think you would be down a very, very slippery slope.
Yeah, but the slippery slope will probably be gone next year. And this is the chance to send. This is a chance. Well, because you're not going to be able to hear it with crowds again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was rare. It was a rare case that Kobe, whenever it was years ago, dropped an F-bomb. They heard it. David Stern smashed him, gave him a big fine. I think where the league is going and the message that it's trying to send, the inconsistencies like they're exhibiting with China, the inconsistencies they're exhibiting here, we may not be insulted by the bitch-ass white boy thing, but there is a reality for whites in the NBA. There are some stereotypes. There are some things they have to overcome. Do I believe that personnel people look at some American white players with some sort of prejudice? Yeah, they probably do. And the other thing is, let's deal with some reality here. For the longest time, I think it's dissipating now, but for the longest time, and we know this happened in the NHL, European players do face some challenges when they come to play pro sports in the United States. In hockey, hey, the Euros are soft. At times in the NBA, you'll get that about the failed Euro top picks. I mean, I'm sure Andrea Bargnani heard nonsense about what a soft pussy he was. So it's there. Listen, is it a debilitating issue in the NBA? Is it holding back guys massively? Does it compare to racism against Africans and African Americans? Of course not. But it is a form of bias. It is a form of prejudice.
You asked the question initially with this: should Montrezl Harrell have been suspended? You think the appropriate message back to Montrezl Harrell for that would be to keep him out of a playoff game? Because to me, that would almost be as wrong as as what was said in the first place, right? Like, I don't think that the punishment would fit the crime there at all. And I guess I'm just not taking this the same way. I'm just not. Maybe I've spent too much time on a basketball court listening to all this crap be thrown around.
Yeah.
But it
Adam,
just doesn't hit me the same way.
Candee, believe me, I've been, I'm not going to say on the same courts, right? No,
I know what you mean, though. I know
trash talk. Here's the other thing, and we can get to this in a little bit. Here's the other thing. The league is trying to support female sports. How many times in the NBA, and I saw it forever, and it still happens, in MMA, how many times we see how comfortable dudes are calling other dudes bitch? What does bitch mean when you call another dude a bitch?
Yeah, for sure. It's saying you're acting woman-like, so therefore you are weaker.
Okay.
I mean, I have a friend who quit my fantasy football league because we have Trump voters in it. I have a friend who refuses to talk to his dad because of political things, but he sometimes will call me a little bitch. And I'm like, do you understand? You calling me a little bitch is technically misogynistic. You're putting down women by that, yet you want to get on this high. So I get what you're talking about with the double standard of getting on a high horse about some things. Let's not act like the NBA isn't also doing a bit of virtue signaling with these names. I always do. I should maybe find a different way to package that. I always do have a friend for the story, but the NBA, that's true though. I do have these friends. Even Damian Lillard called out the NBA a bit for the virtue signaling. Someone said, Dame, it would look really great if you had Oscar Grant on the back of your jersey, the young black man that was killed at the BART station, the subject of the film, Fruitvale Station, that came out a few years ago. And Dame said, I wanted to do that. We had to pick from a list. And you had other players say, I wanted to put certain messages, but we had to pick from a list. The NBA is doing their own sort of virtue signaling where they're like, hey, we want to take a stand on this. We want to put Black Lives Matter on the court, which is awesome, which is to some people a radical statement, which blows my mind. But at the same time, they're like, let's not get too radical. Here's 20 things you can pick from. Here's 20 ways you can protest. We're going to put it in a little bit of a box. We're going to let you protest, but it's got to be in this box. So I think the NBA, similar to the China stuff, they're taking a good stand here on racial injustice. They're silent on China. They're swinging and missing on China. They're not perfect. And I just don't think bitch-ass white boy is a slur. I just don't even think it's that bad.
And listen, the timing of this is catastrophic for the NBA. Can you imagine if they did sit Montrezl Harrell or fine him like $50,000 on the heels of watching Jacob Blake get shot in the back?
And this is kind of what I'm getting.
It would be fucking Armageddon. But again, it is inconsistent, and I think at least having discussions like this, like I know the way people will take this and be like, oh, a bunch of white dudes, complaining. That's not what I'm doing. We're not, as a group, we're not put down. There's no limits on what I can do. I haven't been a victim. I'm just saying the optics of it are bad, and I'm actually now I'm annoyed that I didn't mention this on the terrestrial side. The more I think about it, the bitch ass stuff does need to stop. And as I mentioned earlier, in MMA, it's ridiculous. And they have, so the NBA has a partner league in the WNBA. They've got female fighters there, and dudes are calling other dudes bitches in fighting. And you're like, wait, there's a woman right there who can, whoop most people on the face of the earth, but somehow you're ascribing her weak qualities, I guess, to some other dude. Like, what are you doing?
The word that gets me, Steve, is inconsistency, though, because we're saying as though the NBA is doing this thing that, to Alex's point, isn't really protest. By the time it's sanctioned, it's not protest anymore. Like, that's not really the, attacking the comfort level to get attention the same way that Colin Kaepernick was. It's not to take any value away from it in terms of what it's trying to do, but that to me is not inconsistency with not penalizing Montrezl Harrell for this. And I don't. If you want to say that the messaging, it goes against the messaging, fine. But to say it's inconsistent would almost be like, okay, well, a white player used the N-word and didn't get penalized for it.
Right. I don't know. I think it's funny that certain players are wearing equality on the back of their jerseys, and someone's making reference to a white boy and then using the term bitch ass and
but the bitch ass white boy probably wouldn't get shot by the cops at a traffic stop. I think that's the difference.
No. There's little doubt.
And let's not forget what actually happened after is Trez and Luka hugged it out. They talked about it. They said no disrespect. There was word shared and they moved on. So I think that there maybe didn't need to be anything done. And we had a discussion about it, but people that are getting up on their soapbox, you've seen a lot of sports media people, especially the conservative sports media people, making very bad faith arguments that this is equivalent to Luka saying, calling him a slur, but it's not equivalent. And they're using this to try to tear down some of the good. Like we talked about, the NBA is saying protest within this box, but using this moment and not punishing Trez as a way to tear down some of the good that the NBA is doing and some of the work that the players are doing. And this is a great segue into the Toronto Raptors. Funny, they're the one team not in America, but the Toronto Raptors saying that they're considering boycotting Game 1 against the Celtics because all this virtue signaling performative shit isn't working. They're saying we got to send a message. We got to do something. So to use the bitch-ass white boy thing as a way to tear down some of the good that could come out of the NBA, that is I don't like that. I don't like, and that's not what you're doing, Cofield, but that's what some people in the media are doing.
Alex, do me a favor, either turn down your mic or back off it a little bit because you're peaking. But go ahead. Candee, react to what the Raptors may do.
Sorry, I first have to react to Bob Barker Jr. over here. You get that mic a little farther away.
Sorry, I got fired up.
Yeah. No, that's fine. It's what happens when you're on your way to the Showcase Showdown. So, I look to the point that Alex was making, whether you think it's performative or not, what the NBA is doing, it certainly is a step beyond what most other leagues are doing, what they're allowing their players to do, what they're saying as a league. That's great. I'm behind what the NBA is doing, but it's not by its definition protest. It is speaking up. It is being socially aware, but it's not protest. But by
the way, it is sending a message. Even if we don't get irked by the message, there are lots of people who are annoyed by the message and having to think either they turn off their brains, but I'm telling you, there are people out there who are annoyed by it. I was around a friend, Alex. Anyway, I was around a friend over the weekend and like right into the, what's with the court? The league annoys me. Can we just play sports? So even if it's just ruffling feathers and it's not an official protest, it's getting people to think and irking them and making them uncomfortable. Go ahead, Candee. Sorry.
No, I mean, you picked right at the point where I was going to turn it to the Raptors part, which is to say, to me, that's the protest angle. That is the, by definition, that is the protest. That is the part that makes people so uncomfortable that you can't ignore it. You can choose to ignore what's on that court, right? If you want to watch the game and you just want to put the picture up over the Black Lives Matter piece on the court, to use an example, you can do it. You can't ignore a team saying we are not going to show up for this game. And that is what the Toronto Raptors are talking about doing. And why not? Why not? Honestly, if you're the Raptors and you don't feel like what's being done so far has gotten enough attention, if there's any time in the world to do that, it is right now. And it is within the moment that we're in 2020. And if the Raptors choose to do that, then good on them for speaking up for their values. And that is protest. I'm not taking anything away from what the league is doing by putting these messages on the court, on jerseys, by what Jared Greenberg did at the end of the Lakers game last night, where he basically turned the mic over to LeBron and said to him, yeah, you played a game, but what do you want to talk about? And he talked about Jacob Blake and he seemed to appreciate the fact that, that he was given the platform there on the way into the post-game show. So look, good on the Raptors if that's what they decide to do. And, then Adam Silver will really have something on his hands.
And to Fred Van Vliet from the Raptors' point, he said, okay, the Jacob Blake killing happened in Wisconsin. What if the Bucks sit out a game and then their owner is losing money and potentially losing out on a title shot? What's he going to do? He's going to put pressure on the district attorney. He's got the power to potentially make some real change in that state. So I can't sit back here from the comfort of my garage in Southern California and say that I want the Raptors or the Clippers or any of these guys to forfeit a game and forfeit their dream that they grew up wanting to play hoops and wanting to play in these playoffs. I can't sit back here and say, hey, you guys should do that. That'll send a message. But I would love it if they did, and it would not be performative. If there's real risk involved, if protesters are willing to lose something, that's where you have the potential to see real change.
Yeah, and I agree with you that it's not me saying, not any of us saying you should. It is far from my prerogative to tell anybody what they should or should not do. That's part of the whole problem in the first place. But
yes,
when it comes to what message that would send, and more importantly, the attention that it would draw, if that's what they feel is right, then good on them. Go for it. The fact that it's a Canadian team, whatever, it doesn't really mean anything to me in the end, because you're talking about a group of players that for the Toronto Raptors is from all over the place. You have players from London, you have players from overseas, in other places you have players from the United States. So it's about more than the geographic location.
By the way, why wouldn't the Bucks just do it tomorrow? It's their state. Fuck it, walk.
They need a leader. It's all about they need someone.
You're not losing the series. You're not losing the series to Orlando. Chuck a game. Seriously, if you want to send a message, chuck a game. What would
be the in between?
Basic request. We want the officers in jail and then investigated. Because there are many cases in this country where the investigation is done after someone is taken in custody almost immediately. Put them in jail. We have a video. We'll do an investigation. Put them in jail.
What if they came out?
Until you lock them up, we're not playing.
What if they came out tomorrow in Jacob Blake jerseys? What if they petitioned the NBA and on the back of every jersey was his name?
Who cares?
I mean, yeah, that's not.
But to me, that's the whole point that I'm making. If the Bucks came out and say that on their own, great, go for it. Us sitting here and saying that and saying you should or you shouldn't, that who the hell are we?
Well,
really, who the hell are we?
Listen, I'm not saying they have to do it or they're weak because they're not doing it. I'm giving you the move that would open some eyes and in their state would send a message. We're not playing. Hell, I mean, a couple states over, whatever it is. The Lions, walked off practice, basically said we're not practicing today. Come on. In these cases, when you have a video, let's make the arrest. At least charge them with something and build the case. Don't let the guys walk for days and days and days. What we saw on video was ridiculous. Now, if there's body cam footage, there ain't, as far as we know, right? Because apparently the body cam stuff in Kenosha, the equipment was funded, but it never went through. So I guess it was approved of a while back. They don't have body cams. So enough.
And I think the three of us.
If I shot someone 7 times in the back and it's on video, am I walking? Maybe I am because I'm white, right? I mean, Jesus Christ. In Georgia, those two jabronis walked for a long time before, the video finally got leaked. But put them in jail. Let's go. And the Bucks should say, we're not playing until we get some action. They can piss away a game. Do it.
It's going to take somebody inside that locker room to make that call, though. I mean, I think what we're seeing across the country, everywhere, in sports, in government, in just society, is is a lack of leadership. I'm not saying, the Bucks have a lack of leadership, but you do need someone to take the reins and say, and I don't know the ins and outs of the Bucks locker room, but you need someone to be the guy in that locker room that says, hey, we're not going to play. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, it's got to be a team leader, and it's got to be someone saying, I think that's, practically speaking, Steve, I think that's the reason why we haven't heard or seen that yet. But I do think that.
What if a couple of players did it? I'll give you 3 players who should do it, right? You know what? We're not comfortable with this. This is bullshit. We want racial equality. I want Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, and Kyle Korver to do it.
3 white dudes.
You think that would send a message? Do it. What does Kyle Korver have to lose? And he's very woke. He's one of the first guys that came out and said, you know what? We as Caucasians did not do enough the last time around. Bond together, sit out. But again, I don't want to judge, and I'm old and I'm like in fuck it mode now. But I think these guys are in position to make a major statement. I'd love to see them do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, one of the commenters, Galactus7, he said you guys are putting Band-Aids over cancer. And I do think that is a part of this where these memes, the arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor has almost become a meme and a joke format bigger than the message. But even the concept, to your point, Steve, I these cops, when there's video footage, when there's, we got the cell phone, we got everybody has cameras now. And what do we see? We don't see UFOs and all this other shit. We see cops killing unarmed black men. But to the point of just arresting the cops, yeah, that needs to happen. And I don't know how you advocate for this or what the message is, but we also need to see true systemic change.
I'll react real quick to Galactus 7 with no one gives a fuck about them and they're white. That's the point. Old whites will react to 3 white dudes stepping up, good or bad. It won't be indifferent. Trust me. And I'm telling you, there would have been so much more impact had more players around the NFL, especially Caucasians, actually backed Kaepernick back in 16 and 17, and no one was willing to step up.
No one, bro.
Do it, whites.
You know what? To the commenter, yeah, it is Band-Aids over cancer because we're talking here on a sports radio late night happy hour, right? We're talking about something that there's nothing that's going to happen from an NBA player that at this point here in 2020 that is going to change the situation. Nothing. The protest will get attention. It will continue to highlight the situation, but there's nothing that is going to unroot the systemic problems from what's happening in the NBA, what's happening in the NFL. The one thing that has happened that none of us were willing to acknowledge at the time, I don't say none of us here, but us society at large, and especially the NFL and Roger Goodell with the BS that he threw out there with Emmanuel Acho. But that was Kaepernick. And we weren't ready to hear it as a society. And now it makes that sort of difference. And everything that happens on top of it now is great for what it is. It is great for continuing to draw attention to these massive decades, centuries long problems. We're not going to fix it here. We're just not.
There's just, I think, a big problem, too. There's a massive misinformation campaign and a lack of critical thinking going on in this country. You even saw a few weeks ago an NBA player, Myers Leonard, a white NBA player, when his whole team kneeled for the anthem, he stood and he tweeted about how his brother served, and that's where he stood. And you know what? That's great if that's his reasoning, but it still, to me, shows a major disconnect with the actual reason why Colin Kaepernick took a knee. We're having Myers Leonard, by all means, a seemingly woke player on a team with, fellow black players. There's been discussions being had, and the court says Black Lives Matter, and he still gives his reason for standing for the anthem because his brother served, as if he still believed that Colin Kaepernick's taking a knee was protesting the flag, which it wasn't. And we know that that's the misinformation that was spread about Kaepernick to discredit his initial protest. So there's still people that believe that kneeling for the anthem has to do with the flag or the country, when really it's been noted, it's been said that it's about police brutality. There's still misinformation out there and people who believe that.
Well, there's misinformation. There's also a willingness to believe what you want to believe, and that's
yeah.
There are not, if we talk about this like we talk about voting, there are not many undecided voters left out there when it comes to how you feel about kneeling for the anthem.
Yeah, true. I also think I've got a friend, but talking about this morning, a text conversation with my friend who said it's bullshit that the NBA players are protesting because they live in this doesn't happen to them, and LeBron hasn't experienced racism. And yes, LeBron currently leads a very privileged life. He's got a great life, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have, that doesn't mean that, first of all, can take off his skin or his experience, or that doesn't have people that aren't living the wealthy life that he leads, or that he once didn't lead this life, or that he doesn't still experience racism, as we had some commenters point out. But my point being that there are people that believe that these players shouldn't even be protesting because of the money they make, as if somehow money makes you immune.
Alex, there's a quick retort which would shut them down, and I'd love to hear the argument. I guess they would say, I don't know who that guy is. Sterling Brown, a Milwaukee Buck, did have a bad encounter with police. Thabo Cephalosha had his fucking leg broken.
That's the one I was about to go to, Cofield.
We're talking about two NBA players who, I don't know, how big is Sterling Brown? 6'5", and Cephalosha 6'7". Clearly guys who stand out, who might be recognizable as pro athletes, and it did not matter. It did not matter. They ran across guys who were probably underqualified for their gigs, and did they suffer the fate of freaking George Floyd? No. Could it have gotten there? Sure. So anyone who says that they live a different situation because they're wealthy, that's the freaking point. Money does not matter when someone is going to prejudge on your appearance. My God.
No, I know. I think, Candee, you said it best. People believe what they want to believe, and they're just unwilling to break outside of their bubble. And we have a serious lack of critical thinking skills in this country. I don't know how you remedy it.
LeBron James did not grow up with hundreds of millions of dollars in endorsement deals. LeBron James grew up going to multiple different elementary schools with a mother who was struggling to make it. And not that he would need to explain that to anybody. He shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to talk about what his past was for him to qualify as human and equal.
Exactly.
But if we're going to have to fight this battle with people who are saying he doesn't live that life, he's not exposed to it. If he or anybody else in his life has been exposed to it, then who in the hell are you to say that?
I know. I mean,
that's just, I mean,
no, I know.
I know.
I just, my mind is repeatedly blown that we have people like this. A lot of people like this. They're white. They're mostly white. They're mostly privileged, and they think this way. So, it's exhausting. I don't know, man. But I hope the Bucks and the Raptors. Shit, I hope a bunch of teams. I'm not gonna say that they should, but I hope they do sit out a game.
Dude,
that would be something.
Dude, to put my own bow on this, if these are the discussions you're having with the two QAnon girls, I can kind of see why you need a break.
Way to bring it back.
Every now and then.
Here's the problem with the QAnon girls. The QAnon girls are woke, in quotes. The QAnon girls are woke. Like, they're down with BLM, and they're down with a lot of positive social causes, but then they think they're so woke that they have insight into all this other shit that's going on. Enter QAnon, child sex trafficking rings through a furniture website. Like, they think they're woke, but they're actually, like, they've gone 360, back to the starting point where they're just living in a fake world.
It's hard living out there for a single man, huh?
It's good and bad, ups and downs.
Yeah.
Should we talk about
Cofield? You happy you have the SO? You not dealing with these things?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. At this age, in this condition, absolutely. No, that wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement. Like, That's all I can get. Now she's
in this condition.
Hey, no, listen, your ring endorsement was earlier when you were like, oh yeah, I'd be fine in the bubble. I don't have anything to worry about.
no, I mean, I travel a bunch, and you know, we're I'm one of the big reasons. This is going to sound terrible. One of the big reasons I'm with her is that she is not someone who is clingy and has to have someone around all the time. She's super independent. So that's why we get along. That's one of the reasons we get along. I don't want to close on another heavy topic, but since you mentioned the SO, and when people talk about girlfriend, these are guys, right? And you know, we can listen. I'm not gay, so I don't know what this experience is like. I assume, just like heterosexual relationships, much of the time, guys who are with guys and women who are with women, much of the time when they're away from their spouse, they complain about their spouse, right? So what Mike Milbury did the other day, the announcer for NBC, was drop a joke, a gender joke that guys have been dropping forever. By the way, women love to bitch about their husbands and boyfriends when they get together. That is a fact. I'm not saying all, and I'm not saying all men bag on their wives and girlfriends, but I've been around dudes, Alex, I have friends. I've been around dudes, like, when they get the fun pass and they get some separation from their wife or girlfriend, my God, the commiserating over their relationship and what a pain in the ass their wife or girlfriend is at times, it just takes over the conversation. And I know women do it as well. I believe that's where Mike Milbury was going. I didn't think it was incredibly malicious. I want to see where you guys are. And then I'm going to play a piece of audio that we got today on the show. We talked to a female sports media member, blogger, podcaster. Where are you on Milbury trying to throw in this line about, hey, you know, women aren't here in the bubble to disrupt the men and what they're doing? How did you take it?
So is that I was going to ask, I actually didn't hear the initial comment. So that's what it was. Women aren't here in the bubble.
The play-by-play announcer was talking about, hey, if you're tight with your teammates, this is cool. It's all about hockey. You get the bond with your teammates. And then Milbury, like, you know, in clunky fashion, has to get his line out. And Milbury's like a 60-something.
Okay.
And he throws in there, and, you know, there's no women here to disrupt what's going on, to distract them. And female media members in particular went freaking apeshit. They're like, we've had enough of this, these messages, because I think they took it like, hey, female media members. I don't know what he was saying. I mean, I think I know what he was saying, but anyway.
I think he was getting at that these athletes, these pro athletes, and this is a big reason why I think we're not seeing college football in some conferences and might not see it at all. These athletes, they've got side chicks, they've got groupies, they've got jersey chasers. And now whether that's a disruption or a distraction, that's up for you to interpret. But I think maybe that's where he was going with it. You don't have that. You don't have the jersey chaser. You don't have the guys sneaking out for sex kind of a factor, because I know with college football, a huge concern was that you cannot, because even during the pre-COVID college football seasons, I know from talking to people that work in college football, the night before the game, they had to put security on the hotel floors to make sure they weren't sneaking in chicks, to make sure they weren't, you know, staying up too late trying to get laid. So I think that's maybe what he was getting at. But I will say the trope of the old ball and chain and my ex-wife, like, I think that's kind of tired. And I think that it's really more of an indictment of the person's relationship than it is something funny to complain about.
So let's get one clear message out of the way. Mike Milbury, with or without this comment, is a stone cold moron and has been for any number of years. And he has been the person in NHL broadcasting, at least in the US, non-Don Cherry category, where if you could just pick one person to pick them up and drop them into a dumpster, it would have been Mike Milbury a long time ago. His idiocy is unbounded, but it only had an opportunity to show through in this little way. And I think the problem is that if we say that whether it's female media members, whether it's female trainers, whether it's hotel staff, whether it's anybody who would potentially be inside the bubble, that when we talk about women as distractions to men, we're reducing the identity of women down to what their sexual value is to men.
Yeah.
Or if you want to even give him just a little bit of credit, you're reducing their identity down to annoyance to men, right? The old ball and chain idea that you came up with. Women who are working in the NHL bubble are humans there to do a job the same way the men are there to do a job. And the message that I've taken out of all of this is that they don't want to have their sexuality be any part of their identity as people who are working and wanting to do a job in this industry.
100%. I mean, yeah, that comment is super sexist and misogynistic because of exactly what you said, Candee. Yeah, just women. Yeah, the woman is, I see her purely for her sex value. I see her purely as this object, and I'm glad that's not going to disrupt this. Whereas that obviously has led to so many problems in society with women in the workplace, women trainers, women getting on coaching staffs across pro sports, women announcers. It's so yeah, it's a dumbass comment for sure from an old man who apparently is a moron. I didn't know about Milbury before this, but
use the term correctly, please. Stone cold moron.
Stone cold moron. Stone cold moron.
Yeah,
he's 100% paying for sins of the past too. His resume is pretty rich with old school kind of knuckle dragger comments, especially about, being a tough guy. And I'm sure I don't want to put this on him, but I would guess that he's made comments about the lack of physicality of European hockey going back, years and years and years. He's that type of guy. I'm going to play you some comments real quick on, or from a lady named Jessica Town, who's a blogger, podcaster. And as I often do, I pitted her against Adam Hill because Adam's case was, hey, this is just purely a work comment, that anything outside of your work, women, your kids, your pets, anything is a distraction. And here's her reaction, and she's explaining why so many female media members got mad at Mike Milbury, and Adam will pop in here, and then she'll respond.
So I don't think he intended it in a sexist way. However, it of course has that sexist undertone to it. I think it was a dumb thing to say. He obviously should not have said it. And at this point, I think those mistakes are being, less tolerated. And I as a female in sports can really appreciate that. Women in sports deal with those sexist undertones and outright sexism every day.
My co-host Adam hates this. He thinks that Milbury has been canceled for sins of the past. And Adam, you thought what? It was more of a commentary on family life and how hard you can work?
Yeah, those things are a distraction. We talk about that all the time, right? Like,
what do you mean things? Women?
Anything that's not hockey. Anything that's not hockey is a distraction. If their pets were there, that's a distraction. By the way, in the WNBA bubble, dudes are a distraction. Those things are a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, and I see what you mean. But he only said women. If he would have said, they don't have anything here to distract them. They don't have their pets. They don't have their kids. They don't have their wives. They can't just go to a bar. But he only said women. To your point, you're right. Anything that's not hockey is a distraction from hockey. But that's not what he said. One of the biggest things to think about is like, if you're sitting with kids and you're watching that, and a young girl is sitting there and goes, "Why did he say that?"
There you go.
That was good. That was good.
She's really good. I almost never factor that in because I don't have kids. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching the game and your kid's like, "What was he just saying about women?" Like, you have to explain that. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the factors. And a lot of this, we're featuring more and more women on the show, and if we get a chance to discuss issues like this, I'm very down with it. I am guilty of this, so I'm not pointing at other men. I'm not going to say, Milbury's isolated. But I do think men in sports broadcasting do need to reprogram the way they think. That's the most important part, but also reprogram what they say, because it does have an impact. Like all the jokes we make, and I love to joke about it too, but they do have an impact. And there are parents out there, with their kids listening and watching this stuff. So maybe I'm overly sensitive right now, but I think there's and this is the other thing. My other goal is I fucking hate the fire them, like immediately calling for people to be fired. Can we have discussions? That's how you make change. If women are mad about the way they're treated, and guys keep repeating their mistakes. Some guys are beyond repair, but many are not. Have discussions.
So, Cofield, and to your point, there were some great articles written in the Tom Brenneman situation where people from the LGBT community said, I don't want him to be fired. I just want him to learn. Like, I just want him to be educated and learn why what he said was so offensive. And, I would take what you're saying, Steve, and I think I would just flip it around slightly to say, you said male media members need to think about what they're saying. And I would take Adam's interview there with, was it Jessica, I believe you said?
Yes.
I would take that interview and say, listen to the way that she presented it. Listen to the way she was calm and measured and explaining her case versus, Adam was exasperated talking about, it could be any number of these things, right? But she knows she has to go into that situation coming on to sports radio, and she has to explain it in that calm and measured and straightforward way, because otherwise, she's probably not going to be taken as seriously, and that's wrong. But the point for me is, it's less about saying and more about just shut up and listen. All of us, just shut up and listen. The three of us sitting here, listened to what Jessica said and all kind of went, oh yeah, the kids. And none of us have kids. We didn't think about that, right? It's because we all shut up and we listen to what she has to say. So listen, read, just educate yourself and be open to the idea that all of us have probably said something. I don't want to say as bad as Mike Milbury's. We haven't done it on that stage, but we've probably all said things along those lines that we would regret if it ever came to light.
100%. I think the learning moment is super important. I remember back on my college sports talk show like 10 years ago, I said something inappropriate. I'm not even going to go into what it was. Didn't even think twice. The staff advisor came, sat me down, had a talk with me, explained to me why what I had said was bad. Didn't kick me off air, nothing. Thank God we didn't podcast back then, so that doesn't exist anywhere. But I remember it was a huge learning moment. I still think of the way I felt, realizing how I had said something wrong and how I had offended someone as a 19-year-old kid. And I'm so I think the growth moment, we here in the state of California, as around the nation, we've had a lot of statues taken down over the last couple months. Up in Sacramento, in the state capitol, one weekend, the powers that be, Gavin Newsom, our governor and whatnot, did a clean sweep, got rid of all these Christopher Columbus and these other statues, and just there was no discussion to be had. There was no, here's why we're taking out. They're just gone one weekend. In another place, Ventura, at one of the missions, they had a statue of Father J. Serra, Junipero Serra, who built all the missions here in California, enslaved and pillaged a lot of the native people here. And there was, before they took it down, they had a special meeting. The local tribe, the Chumash tribe, and the local native people and other townspeople came and spoke. People were pro, people were against. The council had a discussion. They decided not to destroy it, but to move it to a less prominent place and to kind of, do some plaques and some more history about it. And I was like, that's great. People had to listen. People had to talk. People had to articulate thoughts on both sides. And instead of just destroying something, they put it away and tried to make an education moment. So yeah, I'm very pro teaching moment. Just to double down on that comment.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it. Sorry, it was super heavy tonight. I don't know. Things have been building up the last couple of weeks. So that shooting annoys the fuck out of me. Some of the reaction, the Milbury stuff. So,
dude, just, you don't need to turn the news on for more than 5 or 10 minutes today to know why we had the discussion we had tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm embracing the Sinbad types again. Like, I know I was joking about that earlier, but if you're seeing dudes like that who generally seem pretty happy, like on the brink of just fucking wanting to crush skulls, it's pretty sobering, And believe me, we know what's coming up. We were joking about it last night. We were joking about having McKinnell and Adam do a live election reaction night show. Ooh, doggy. That would be good. But we know what's coming. So
yeah, it's just ramping up. It's just ramping up.
And I know what's going to happen. I know what'll happen, just in our little small world at Lotus Broadcasting. I loathe these political commercials. I've already heard some of the other local stations running them. They're for the fucking stupidest people. And I hate using the word stupidest because I don't think it's a word. But they play to, the low-hanging fruit crowd. I get why they're doing it. I think it's just an insult. Such a big insult to all of us. But, hey, who am I to say that radio shouldn't be running these commercials? But I know what's coming, and I know that's going to irk me. But we got to stay in business, and, we're firing people left and right. So, again, heavy at the end. But, oh, boy, it's coming.
At the end.
Drama in the LBC, baby. Drama in the LBC.
I want to say one more thing about retiring or changing the way we talk about women in sports media. Yep. I just think, too, we all have engaged in it, right? Like, we're all guilty of the old ball and chain or, venting about the ex when we get away. But I do think it becomes lazy, especially in sports radio. Like, it becomes such a format for a joke or such like, hey, we're a guy's show. We're going to talk about the wife or we're away from the wife. And I just think it becomes so lazy and repetitive. And I think it just becomes such an indictment on the person telling the story that they can't either, one, handle their shit internally, or two, that they chose to marry someone who apparently is making their life hell every time. Like, maybe it's even more of an indictment of the institution of marriage, but I am sick of that trope in sports media, especially in sports talk radio, because it's such like a dude thing. And I remember it's just always been kind of a turnoff to me. I'm like, I don't know, figure out your shit with your girlfriend, man. Like, stop complaining about it on the air all the time. I like the funny day. Like, I like venting on my QAnon stuff and my ex, but like, it's all love there. It's not the ball and chain.
Brady, yeah, I just saw what you posted on Twitter. We will obviously we'll discuss this tomorrow, if that's real. A Jonathan Marchessault conversation. I don't know what that's all about, but
I am diving over to my tweet deck right now to try to see if I can find this.
Ari, who's incapable of getting fooled by fake stuff on the internet, says it's fake. So we'll see.
Wow.
Who knows? All right. That said, go to Twitter, go to social media, see if there's a developing story with Marshy, and tomorrow we'll definitely on Cofield and Company jump into more of the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Leonard Fleury thing's not over. As I've said with Fleury, I don't think the gap between the two is that big. I am the only person in the market only person on radio saying that Marc-Andre Fleury absolutely deserves a statue. He should be treated better. He has been stabbed in the back by this organization. Treat the flower the right way and with some respect, or he will just get the job back eventually and leave.